Por petición popular, esto es la segunda parte de ¿Qué es lo más tonto que te ha dicho un estadounidense? De la biblioteca de Edgar de León. A darle.
What is the dumbest thing an American has ever said to you?
Well, I remember visiting Warner Brothers, and our tour guide, in the beginning of the tour, he asked us where we all were from, and I told him that I was from Turkey. And every single time he would show something or tell us something, he would always say, well, you probably don't have that in Turkey. And I had to correct him every single time. It would be highways, but you probably don't have that in Turkey. Dumpsters, you probably don't have that in Turkey.
Sí, yo me imaginaba que iba a ser algo por el estilo.
Stray Cats, you probably don't have that in Turkey. Netflix, you probably don't have that in Turkey. Ellen Show, you probably don't have that in Turkey.
Y por eso deberías estar agradecido, de hecho.
And stuff like that. Like, where do you think I'm from? What do you think is here? A desert? Do you think we're riding camels? Like, I don't know.
So I'm American, obviously, but I got a story for you. This one time, I was at an audition in Nashville, and I was sitting next to this pretty blonde girl. I asked her where she was from, and she said, I'm from Alabama. How about you? Nice. I'm from Oklahoma. Huh? I'm from Oklahoma? What is that? Excuse me? What is that? What is it? It's a state. Like in the United States? Yes. In the United States of America.
Sí, un estado en los Estados Unidos. ¡Wow! Me pregunto por qué se llamará así.
America. I've never heard of that. You've never heard of Oklahoma? No, where is that? It's like right in the middle of the country. Like right above Texas, you know? Oh. So
Lo más probable es que esta chica conozca Texas por Bob Esponja. Es muy probable que es la única razón por la cual no le haya preguntado por ese lugar también.
So it's next to California? That is 100% a true story.
Okay, I'm an American, and I actually am from New Mexico. And when I lived up in Illinois, every time I told people, hey, I'm from New Mexico, they'd be like, Did you get a green card? Are you here legally? What? New Mexico is the 5th largest state in America. You people need to go to school because you don't obviously know where anything is. Oh, and they also call me a wetback, so that's racist. Fun times.
So I'm gonna just preface this and say I'm from Canada, right? And the one
La peor parte es que ellos son los más amables. Luego está la gente que no quiere ser racista y te trata de la forma más racista, clasista y despectiva posible. No es un mexicano, es un latinx, ¿ok? Llámalo con respeto. Lo siento, señor, aquí tiene un taco. Y te entrega algo de Taco Bell. Y le dijiste que eras argentino.
One time I ever went to Los
Hola,
Angeles,
Tricopos.
California, I was somewhere around Santa Monica Beach with my family, and I went to a skate shop, and I bought myself a skate deck. And when I told the dude who was working there, who sold me the deck, when I told him I was Canadian, his response, like his mouth dropped, and he was like, "You can skateboard in snow?" And I laughed and said, "What do you mean?" And he's like, well, it's a frozen wasteland there, isn't it? And it's like, no, it's sunny, and like there's only snow for 85% of the year. The other 15%, you can skateboard like nothing, right? And he's like, oh, well, if it isn't snowy all the time, how do you live in igloos?
South Park. South Park. Eso lo aprendió de South Park. Los iglus son bullshit, por cierto.
I'm not lying at all.
Oh, I was made for this. Okay, so when I first moved here, I was in 6th grade, and I was getting enrolled to this middle school, and I was meeting up with the assistant principal. And basically, she asked me for
Cuando vaya a Estados Unidos le voy a decir, ¿has visto la película Madame Web? Sí, todo lo que sale allí de Perú es real. Yo soy parte de... Yo conozco a gente que está en esa tribu de gente araña. De hecho, ellos hablaron con Stan Lee y fue así que donde salió la historia de Spider-Man. Y también puedo lanzar redes, pero no me permiten hacer aquí en Estados Unidos, así que ahí va. Quiero ver si se lo creen. Quiero ver si se lo creen. ¿Sabes?
from where I was
De hecho, nuestro presidente se llama el Arácnido.
from, and I'm like, oh, I'm from Colombia, like I just moved here. And then she's like, oh my god, really? So do y'all live in trees and eat alligators for breakfast? Last time I remember, I was living in a very nice house eating pan de bono with some chocolisto, but that's fine.
So this was in high school during one of our art classes. So as we're drawing, we do small talk, and somehow we got on a topic of overpopulation.
Oh.
Mind you, this was 2013 when the Philippines was getting messed up by floods. This one girl says, it's good that the Philippines getting messed up by floods, you know, because overpopulation.
Pero ustedes no entienden, chicos. Ellos tienen que defendernos a nosotros, las minorías, en los videojuegos y en las series de Netflix. ¿Quién más lo haría si no?
And I'm like dumbstruck. And the girl next to her
Hola, Kitty
goes,
Bugs.
dude, she's Filipino. And that girl looks over to me and she's like, oh, I didn't know she was Filipino. I thought she was Asian.
Okay, so I'm Canadian. But I went to elementary and middle school in Florida. During my 7th grade geography class, my teacher was doing a presentation on pollution. She showed a bar graph showing a bunch of different countries and how much they contributed to pollution. As you may expect, US and China was way at the top. But there was a piece of the graph showing how little Canada contributed. Me being a Canadian, I had a moment of pride and said, woohoo, Canada. To which my teacher responded, yeah, but that's because there aren't any cars in Canada, sweetie. And I said, no, there are cars. My dad has one. We moved here in one. They have streets and highways and everything.
Me parece tan bizarro que haya políticos estadounidenses que hablan abiertamente sobre que hay que invadir Canadá y todo el resto. También sobre que hay que invadir México, por cierto.
And she said, sweetie, those are sleds. My geography teacher.
¡Oh!
Okay, so I'm from Vancouver, where we have, like, very fair weather. It gets really hot in the summer and, like, only a little cold in the winter. But I'm in Cali for the first time, and these people are talking to us. They're, like, flirting and whatever, and it's fun and whatnot. And they're like, oh, you're from Canada. And I'm like, yeah.
Quizás por eso hay cada vez más y más profesores progres en Estados Unidos, porque es muchísimo más fácil saberte todas y cada una de las clasificaciones de sexualidades y las diferentes 27 banderas LGBT que aprenderte geografía. ¿Sabes? En comparación es un tiempo muchísimo menor, así que empujan eso no porque ellos crean que realmente es importante, sino porque simple y llanamente es muchísimo más fácil de aprender todo. Pequeña teoría que lanzo.
And they're like, oh my, congratulations, what does it feel like to wear shorts? I was like, pardon? They're like, isn't this your first time ever wearing shorts? Like, literally, I wear shorts for like 4 months of the year, people. This isn't my first time, but thanks.
Okay, so this is when I was working in a bar in Edinburgh many, many years ago, and this guy kept on saying, this American dude was in, and he was like, you're not Scottish. You're not, well, he didn't say Scottish, he said Scotch. You're not Scotch, I'm a Scotch American, because my last name I saw on a clan map. And so that's how I know where my clan comes from. I've never seen your name on a clan map. I was born at the fucking Inverness General Hospital, you be dead.
Hi. Yeah, fellow American here. And this is still the dumbest thing an American has ever said to me, because I'm from Alaska, the 49th state, which somehow gets lost in translation to the 48 other states that came before us, who somehow forget that we're a state, because then we have people who come up to Alaska and they walk into my tour shop and they're like, hi, where's the currency exchange? Are you planning a trip to Canada? We are like right close to the border. No. I need Alaskan money. Are you not from the United States?
Bulear a gente de otros países. Bulear a gente de otros estados que tomas como otro país. Es un nuevo nivel de estupidez, discriminación e ignorancia. Me encanta.
I'm from Kansas, but I need Alaskan money. Ma'am, did you miss the giant
¿Es por Fallout? ¿Es por Fallout? No había dinero. A ver, no. La RNC no era de Alaska, era de... Coño.
American flag right outside I can see it out my window. There's also one at the post office just across the street. It's
California, de Nueva California. Sí. Me
it's the same money. Stay tuned for part 2.
NSR, perdón.
Alright, so I was in Pennsylvania, right, on a vacation. And we were visiting this Amish house with a guided tour and stuff. And at the end there was a little question round where we could all ask questions to the guide. And someone asks the question, do the Amish go to hospitals? And the guide answers, yes, they do go to hospitals. And then the next question is, how do they afford it? Well, yeah, the leader or whatever, I don't remember exactly, goes around 2 times a year to collect money from everyone. They pool that together, and when someone needs to go to the hospital, they take the money from that pool.
Qué bonito.
And everyone taking the tour was standing there like, oh my god, that's so great, yeah, it's perfect. So I say, well, that's basically how it works in Europe. You pay your taxes, everyone pays their taxes, and if you need to go to the hospital, they take from that money and use it to pay the hospital. Which the guide looks extremely disgusted, and she replies with, that's socialism.
I lived in Florida for about a year as an exchange student from Colombia, and somebody asked me what language I spoke.
Me encanta cómo nos han metido el miedo, o sea, hay varias cosas que gente dice, socialismo es malo, que de hecho son sentido común o derechos fundamentales básicos humanos, pero ok. La mejor forma de no tener que preocuparse por eso y que la gente se ponga a reclamar por sus derechos es decir, no, eso es rojillo, no te pongas loquillo.
And before I said anything, he said, what, Mexican? That's not even...
Okay, so I was born in Venezuela, but I grew up in the US, and my parents and we've gotten asked if we have cars, elevators, traffic lights, fast food restaurants, sidewalks, houses and apartments in Venezuela.
Ya no más, por cierto.
Yes, we do. Why wouldn't we have those things? I don't understand, but okay. My dad told me this funny story of how in the 70s my uncle dated this American girl and they lived together in an apartment in Chicago. And apparently she thought that in Venezuela people didn't have kitchens. And so when my dad and grandpa went to go visit them, she was like, come here.
Parcito, gracias
you
por
see
tu
this is a fridge. And she started doing that to everything in the kitchen and they were like, okay, we know. And so months later she went to go visit them in Venezuela and realized that people do have kitchens, and you could tell that she was so embarrassed and she felt stupid. And my grandpa was like, come here, and he reenacted everything that she did when they went to go visit her. And so,
bueno, al menos allí sí reconoció que se había equivocado,
so
I already said this before, but I'm gonna say it again because some people could be so ignorant and stupid. So I went to college in the States, and this American asked me where I'm from, so I told him I'm from Korea, but my family resides in the Philippines.
Okay.
And this dude had the audacity to ask me if people in the Philippines eat mangoes and bananas every day, and do they live in a hut or a shack. And this is exactly what I told him, word by word. And I said, bro, you do know that's fucking racist, right? And the guy's like, how is that racist? And I asked him the same question, and I said, hey, I heard Americans love to shoot people, especially in school. Is that true? And he's like, that's racist.
Pero cierto.
It's so ironic that US have one of the best universities in the world, but some people can be so extremely stupid.
Hi, Canadian here. Before I get started, just for reference, the US is here and we are right there. Okay? I'm gonna try to go in order from least ridiculous to most ridiculous, so stay tuned until the end. Firstly, I've been asked numerous times if you need a passport to enter Canada. Like we're not a whole ass other country. I've been asked if we ride polar bears, typical, if we have roads, if we have cars, if we go to school. These are serious questions, by the way, like they were being serious. But the worst one was when I went to Ohio to coach a basketball camp, and I was talking to one of the coaches. He was the coach of a JUCO, okay? Black man in his 40s. And he said to me, wow, I didn't know they had black people in Canada. I obviously thought he was kidding, but then he said, wow, does that mean you're like one of the only black people over there? Like, did you move there from the States? You're American, right? You have to.
Nadie se salva, hermano. Nadie se salva. Son como una rareza. La perla negra.
So I'm traveling in Australia. I'm in a hostel in Brisbane, and there's this American couple. I ask them where they're from. They tell me they're from Alabama. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. I've never been to America. And they're like, oh really? But America's so close to Jamaica. And I'm thinking, what? And I say, oh, well, I'm not from Jamaica. Oh, well, sure you are. You sound Jamaican to me. And I was like, well, I'm actually from Wales. And the girl looks at me and she starts giving me a glare. I'm like, oh God, what have I said? Like, have I offended them in some way?
¿Cómo te atreves a corregirla? Serás de donde yo crea que seas.
And they're like, you can't say you're from a fake country. That is so offensive. And I'm like, but Wales is a real country. No, it's not. It's an animal.
Wales is... No, Leo, es peor. Ciertamente lo es. Gracias por la aclaración.
Like, no, it's a real country. Who do you think Charles is? You know, Queen Elizabeth's son. Like, he's Prince of Wales.
Sí,
oh, yeah, he's Prince of the Animals. Everybody knows that he owns all the...
Hay un límite. Debe haber un límite en la estupidez. Mira, si yo fuera a Estados Unidos, pondría un número en plan de... Mira, para no avergonzarnos más a nivel mundial, si eres una persona del extranjero y has escuchado algo tan inhumanamente estúpido que te ha dejado paralizado, que has tenido que sentarte para analizar lo que te han dicho, puedes llamar a este número de emergencia para darte servicio gratuito. Vamos a llegar allí con unas mantas, un chocolate caliente y un abrazo. Y la persona que haya dicho la estupidez que te ha dejado en ese estado, una noche en la cárcel lo hará reflexionar.
Wales in the world.
Que la estupidez se vuelva ilegal, por favor.
The dumbest thing I can remember was like 5 years ago. I had been in the States for like 2 months, so I didn't really hate anybody yet. And this
sí, la ñ señal.
lady at work, I walk into her office and she's like, oh, where are you from? Because like I hear an accent. And I told her and she's like, oh, you know, no offense, but I'm going to offend anyways. But I love how Hispanic people, you guys just don't care about problems. You just care about the...
Imagínate que un gringo te diga eso. ¡Ay, Dios! Ustedes que viven tan felices en sus chozas de barro, ignorante de lo que pasa en el mundo. ¿Qué suerte tienen? ¿Cómo me gustaría estar como ustedes en mitad de una jodida jungla jugando con los monos?
The music, the food, and sex. And fiestas.
First of all, let me just start off by saying that it is incredibly difficult to come up with just one story for something like this, but I'm going to try.
Te creo, bro.
In 2009, I was doing this summer program for high school students in LA where I met this girl who...
Dios, este tipo es un chat, Mira esa barbilla, por Dios. El filtro fue creado tomando este papi de referencia, Jesús.
I guess was super fascinated by the fact that I was originally from India. One day, she asked me, she was like, how do you guys get around where you're from? I was like, what do you mean, how do we get around? We drive. She seemed genuinely confused, and she looked at me and she was like, wait, you guys have cars in India? I was like, babe, yeah, I'm from New Delhi. It's the capital. Of course we have cars. What? She very seriously looked at me and said, I thought you guys rode elephants everywhere.
Películas, es todo lo que tienen de referencia. Pinches películas y series de Disney. Uf.
Oh my god, I have so many of this, but this would specifically stand out. I'm from Venezuela, so Latinos, we look very different from each other. We don't have a specific look that we all look, right?
True.
So I currently live in Atlanta, and Atlanta has a very good baseball
Directus
team.
me quiere por X100. Hay dos cosas infinitas, el universo y la estupidez humana y no estoy seguro de lo primero. Esta frase se aplica muy bien para los gringos. Imagino Einstein la dijo cuando fue a para Gringolandia.
The Braves, and one of their top players is Venezuela, Acuna. I was at this sports bar with American friends, and we were talking about Acuna and how he was Venezuelan, and you know, Venezuela has great talent for baseball players. And he said, "Oh, Acuna's Venezuelan?" And I was like, "Yeah, isn't that great? He's great." And he was like, "Oh, but he's black." And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "I didn't know Venezuelans were black." And I was like, "What?"
Perros, decídanse, o todos somos negros o no, o ninguno de nosotros lo es. ¿Cómo funciona eso, carajo? Ya ni siquiera se ponen de acuerdo en la forma en la que van a ser racistas con nosotros.
I was an exchange student in the US and I would randomly get asked by questions. And then one time I said I was Asian because Philippines is in Southeast Asia.
Sí.
And then they literally said, Philippines is in Asia? I thought it was in Europe. Girl. And then one time I was in the bus, I got asked, do you have school? Do you have farm animals in the Philippines? Do you know what an iPhone is? Girl, what do you think of us? Some sort of a different planet?
No lo sé, Rebeca. ¿Tú sabes? No creas que no he visto la marca del carro de tus padres. No es que ganen mucho.
Like, this is why you need to go to school. Oh my God.
Oof, I've got a lot of these because I married an American and I used to live in America, but this was my first experience and it happened when I was 19 and I was visiting my boyfriend's family for the first time. So I'm trying to make a good impression and I was sitting at a table of young women and one of these young ladies turns to me and said, "So where are you from?" Like I had the audacity to be from somewhere else. And I said, "I'm from Australia. I'm from Western Australia."
Okay.
And she said, "Oh, that's where my chinchilla is from." And I was like, "Your chinchilla? I don't think those are Australian." And she was like, "Well, they are," and looks at me like I'm the fucking moron who's calling myself Australian and doesn't know the chinchilla, the national animal of Australia. So I said, "Oh, I don't think they do." So this is 12 years ago, pre-iPhone in the pocket days. So she gets on the living room computer and Googles chinchilla and opens the Wikipedia page and goes to the region section, points to the word Argentina on a map of South America and says, "See, there."
Mira, hay que darles puntos extra. Al menos lo buscó en internet. El resto de la gente que hemos escuchado aquí tenía la opción de ver su celular y no lo hizo. Decidió seguir adelante como un jodido campeón hasta estrellarse con esa pared. Supongo que por eso es la tierra de los bravos y los valientes. No los más listos, pero bravos y valientes son un buen rato.
So I was living in New York at the time, and I'm originally from southern Spain, and I was at this dinner party in New York City, and I was talking to this guy, and he finds out I'm from Spain, and he goes like, "Dude, so how long does it take you to drive from Spain to Manhattan?" And I was like, "You did not ask that question." And I looked at my friends, and my friends were like, "You did."
Oh, no lo hizo. Oh, sí lo hizo.
So I was like, I'm not gonna see this guy ever again in my entire life, so at least let's have a laugh at it. And I looked at him straight in the eye as serious as I could, and I was like, well.
Number 41Q me quiere por X100. Leo, si un gringo te pregunta cómo es vivir en Latam, diles en Perú tienen que pagar diezmo al emperador Cusco. En Chile todos son seres de 2 dimensiones. Los brasileños pueden hablar y controlar a los monos. Paraguay en una leyenda urbana y todo.
Bueno, la verdad es que es un poco complicado esquivar a los dinosaurios, pero como siempre están distraídos peleándose con Pie Grande, hay una brecha de tiempo en el cual uno puede aprovechar para pasar, ¿sabes? Y las ninfas del agua suelen ser muy amables, al momento de que pasas al lado de los desiertos post-apocalípticos. Te dan al menos un pase o dos para poder sobrevivir, tomar un poco de agua, refrescarte, aprovechar para jugar un poco con los monos, ¿sabes? Y de allí seguir tu viaje. Si tienes un poco de suerte y los dioses te sonríen, puedes encontrar unas cosas de vez en cuando. Creo que ustedes lo llaman Coca-Colas o algo así. Buenísimas. Buenísimas. Probé una vez una cuando tenía 5 años. Mi abuelo murió para conseguírmela, pero valió la pena.
Depending on the traffic and the fog, because, you know, the ocean, it might take 18 to 20 hours.
Ahora lo adoramos como si fuera un dios.
And he elbowed his friend and was like, dude, I told you it takes longer to drive to Texas. And I was like, he did not say that. But he did. He actually did. Oh my God, it was one hell of a night.
Okay, so basically like 7 or 8 years.
Les voy a decir, mira, la razón por la que los Simpson tienen tantos episodios es porque se van a grabar a Chile. En Chile todo es 2D. Y pues Homero Simpson, Marge, Lisa, Bart, todos existen y están allí, ¿sabes? Tienen su casa. Por lo que preparan una zona por allí, ¿sabes? Disney tiene dinero, puede alquilar una ciudad incluso, y como es tan popular el show, pues vale la pena. Así que aparcan toda una ciudad y se ponen a grabar sobre ese lugar. Homero realmente es chileno. Mi papá lo conoció una vez. Salió a tomar con él junto con Rick Sánchez. Buen tipo, la verdad. Fuera de cámaras, bastante agradable.
Years ago, I was at Victoria Coach Station in London, and I met this American girl, and we started talking, and she's like, oh my God, where you from? And I was like, well, I was born and raised in Romania, but I've been living in England for like 3 years now. And we started talking about different topics, blah, blah. And then we started talking about politics.
Oh, no, nunca hables de política con un gringo, baby. Jamás lo hagas.
And I don't actually remember what I said, but I was talking about the Romanian president. And he's like, oh my God, he did this and blah, and I'm not really into politics. And then she looked at me like she was flabbergasted, like, wow. And then she asked me, oh, you guys have a president as well? I thought it was just an American thing.
So, being from South Africa and
Aquí en Perú nuestro líder es conocido como la alpaca alfa, Sigma. Sigma Euquénido, para los entendidos. Y se encarga de repartir el choclo y el queso y la cancha de forma equitativa por todos lados. Su reinado está bendecido por el dios Sol y Adidas.
having worked in America for a couple of years, I've been asked, how did I get here, you know, in America? Told them we had teams of 4 in one rowboat and then each guy gets an hour to row. I've been asked, how did you learn to speak English so quickly? So I said, no, that's easy. That's just like a 2-day course, you know, easy. I've been asked, have you really got pet lions? So I said, no, I don't. I've got a cheetah, but my neighbor's got the lion. I've had, how can you be from Africa? Because you're white. So I said, well, have you never heard of an albino?
Tremendos bait, este hombre me representa. Él es mi espíritu animal.
Just, I don't know where they get the shit from.
Películas.
But it's quite fun once you start going with it. And they believe every fucking word.
¡Quiero intentarlo!
Do you have Christmas in Ireland? Yes, we do. Do you have Thanksgiving in Ireland? No, we don't. Do you have Halloween in Ireland? We invented a fucking thing.
So, family vacation in Disneyland. Some guy hears us talking and says, hey, are you guys from Canada? My dad goes, yeah, we're from Canada. And the guy's like, oh, okay. We can see he's like, clearly wants to ask something. And eventually he gets up the courage and he's like, so, what's it like down here? And my dad's like, oh, we like Disneyland. Yeah, it's cool. The guy goes, no, but like, what's it like driving? So my dad asks, well, what do you mean? And the guy goes, so do you get like cars at the border or how does that work? So me, being the eternal jackass of my family, interject. I say, yeah, they got a little training spot at the border, and you trade in your sled dogs, and they look after them. There's like a fee or whatever.
De hecho, para que no te sientas tan mal, los autos que le dan a los canadienses realmente no tienen motor, tienen un perro que te empuja por la parte. ¿Has visto los picapiedras? Algo por el estilo, pero con perros.
But yeah, we get to drive and try it out. They even let me drive. I was like maybe 10 at the time. Then, no word of a lie, as my dad is expecting this random stranger to lose his mind, the stranger goes, wow, that Canadian education system is really great.
Back in college, I was working as a technical support representative in one of the biggest telcos in the US. One time I had this very angry customer because she's been transferred from one line to another. That's why she's very enraged. But I managed to calm her down when I promised to do my best to solve her problem because she's now on the right line. While I am rebooting all of her system, including her internet, she asked, am I talking to a monkey from the Philippines? Then I was like, what do you mean by that? Of course, I have to pretend I don't know what she meant. And she answered, never mind. You can't even grow apples there. And I was like, you know what, ma'am? I wanted to tell you something. You know, in the Philippines, we are producing one of the sweetest banana in the world. And we're shipping it to the US. You know why? She asked why. Because in the Philippines, only monkeys eat bananas. That's why we're shipping it there.
Pam, 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 hermana. Dios. Uf. Puñetazo hubiera dolido menos. Tremenda papeada termonuclear, cuántico-fantástica, termoatómica que le acaba de meter nuestro pana. Oh, shit. Papeada termonuclear. Sí. A ver, no voy a mentir. Es gracioso ver este tipo de videos. No tengo mucho que aportar, honestamente, porque son solamente una serie de anécdotas y ya está, pero de igual manera se ha estado bastante jaja. Tengo más ganas de ir. A ver, obviamente iría a un lugar donde están un poquito más tranquilos. Iría a San Francisco, ya saben, donde son un poquito más pussies, para asegurarme que en caso de que mi bait salga mal, pues no tengan armas para desquitarse, ¿sabes? Por lo que sí. Pero quiero ver qué tan lejos puedo llegar. Quiero ver si puedo convencer a algunos de que la película de Transformers se llevó a cabo aquí porque Optimus, después de la última de Michael Bay, se decidió retirar y se vino a conseguir un lugar en Perú. Y lo convencieron de que vuelva a grabar otra. Y pues, como no quería salir del país porque estaba bastante encariñado, pues dijeron, ok, bien, grabaremos en Perú. ¿Podré convencerlos de que Optimus existe? A ver, estoy seguro que puedo convencer al menos a un par de que los dinosaurios existen. Estoy muy seguro de que eso puede llegar a pasar. O que el incanato todavía está aplicado. Pero ahí va. ¿Sabes? Inténtalo en Florida. No lo sé, Bob. ¿Era falso? Obviamente no. Florida más. No, Florida es GTA en la vida real. Yo no quiero que ningún tipo random me golpee en la calle confundiéndome con una prostituta. No, gracias.
Number 41Q me quiere por X100. Ring, ring, ring. Hola, señor Untleo, llamo del mecánico.
Hola.
Lamento informar que su auto tardará más. La razón es que la alpaca de su motor acaba de fallecer. Ahora le conseguiremos otra alpaca para que pueda ir a la carrera de alpacas auspiciada por el emperador alpaca.
Ya era hora. Ahora, si me disculpas, tengo que rendirle homenaje al sol. Me bajo los pantalones y le muestro el trasero. Es algo cultural. Por favor, espere. Dile que haga sacrificios humanos, Leo. Gloria al Señor de las alpacas. Sí. No, sería en todo caso, donde les estaba diciendo, porque ahí es donde se juntan los más progres entre los gringos y esa gente se traga lo que sea. Así que ahí va. Y pues suelen estar bastante en contra del uso de las armas, por lo que, una vez más, en caso de que alguien diga, no es verdad, los dinosaurios no están en Perú, obviamente están en Ecuador. Y se ponga animado, pues evitar que me empiecen que me conviertan en un queso suizo. No, gracias. San Francisco, allí voy. La cuna de la pedantería. Le cuentas una... le puedo contar la herejía de Horus, pero cambiando los nombres y decir que es Perú. En plan de... hubo, sí, una guerra civil ahí en Perú. Unas guerras para unificar a todas las naciones. Un gran líder llamado Cusco. Comenzó todo. Le hicieron una película, no sé si la conoces. Fue Disney y les quedó muy bien. Y lideró a sus hijos, los Primashkis, en una campaña de conquista con sus cuyos terrestres para unificar todas las naciones, ¿sabes? Ahora mismo Perú sigue en una campaña, en una larga guerra contra los diferentes reinos latinoamericanos para intentar unificar todo el continente. Podría funcionar. Podría funcionar. Tenemos a los, los orcos serían los chilenos. Los argentinos serían los Eldars. Uf. ¿Brasil serían los necrones? Ya vería yo. Lo distribuiría lo mejor que pudiese, ¿está bien? Prueba. Venezuela necrones. No, es que tiene que ser un lugar con tecnología, ¿sabes? Bolivia es ultramar. Ok, bien, ya. La biblioteca de Edgar de León es un canal relativamente pequeño. Por favor, apóyelo, denle un like, un bonito comentario. Y la biblioteca de Edgar de León, si crees que estoy haciendo mal uso de tu material, por favor me escribes y lo borro, sin peros ni nada, al instante.